calling to order this meeting of the Pittsboro Board of Commissioners on Monday, April 23rd, 2018. We'll begin the meeting with a moment of silence, and I'm asking us to be thinking tonight of Commissioner Jay Farrell, who will not be with us. He's in the hospital with his mother, who's 97 years old, and she fell yesterday, so she is in our thoughts as well. Thank you. Jay Farrell usually leads us in our Pledge of Allegiance, and I'd like for our Mayor Pro Tem, Kim Baldwin, to lead us tonight. We all rise. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Board, you have your agenda before you. Is there any modification, addition, or correction to the agenda?
I made one correction next to the minutes page B in our last meeting, and that document is before, I think, everybody here. So
Is that our desk?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda with that modification.
Moved by Michael Fiocco, seconded by Bette Wilson Foley. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed. The motion carries unanimously. As to the regular agenda, is there a motion to accept the regular agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Michael Fiocco, seconded by John Bonnet. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed. Motion carries unanimously. Is there a motion to go into public hearing, which is the first thing following the consent agenda on our agenda tonight? So moved.
Second.
Moved by Bette Wilson Foley, seconded by Michael Fiocco. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries unanimously. And Victoria Bailiff, our planner, will lead us with into the discussion preemptory to the public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor. We have rezoning 2018-01, 490 West Street. Dwayne and Christine Howard are proposing to rezone a portion of 3 separate parcels totaling approximately 0.537 acres located directly behind 490 West Street from R12 medium density residential to O&I office and institutional. This parcel has been zoned R12 since the late 1980s. The future land use plan has this property designated for traditional neighborhood, and the surrounding properties are zoned O&I to the south and to the east. To the north, they are zoned R12, while the parcels to the west are zoned R12 and C2. Staff finds this proposal to be consistent with the future land use plan and also finds this to be a suitable location for office and institutional, as it is positioned between properties currently zoned for medium density residential, highway commercial, and office and institutional. Staff recommends, following the public hearing, the request be sent to the Planning Board for recommendation.
There is no one signed up for public comment in this public hearing. Is there someone who would wish to speak who just neglected to sign up as they came in? Thank you. Are there questions by the board, or is there a motion to go out of public hearing?
I do have some questions that I'd like for staff and the planning board to consider. So this is rezoning one entire parcel and portions of 2 other parcels. And the parcels that are being rezoned are residentially zoned now and residentially used. And my questions have to do with changing of a portion of the parcel. And would any future development onto that parcel that would now be O&I, is it accessory to the residential use? Is it its own principal use on the property. Regarding access, can one access that commercial or O&I zone property through residential property? And should there be another building on there, how would this relate to the zoning ordinance section 3.2 that says only one main building shall be on site?
Well, first,
Yeah,
we don't have to answer.
oh, we don't have to, okay, well, thank you.
You don't have to be on the spot, but
Awesome.
I would like consideration of those matters because I haven't resolved them.
Yeah, we've got some.
Got it.
I have a question too to consider. I'm intrigued by you said that the future land use plan calls for residential.
Traditional neighborhood, and in that description, it lists that you can have some other uses as long as they're compatible with the residential. And O&I and C1 are districts that generally are good transitional districts between commercial and residential areas.
Just for clarification on that. Okay, thank you.
Any other thoughts or questions to pass along? If not, then, is there a motion to go out of public hearing? Moved by Pamela Baldwin. Seconded by John Bonnet. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries unanimously. We have public expression speakers who have signed up, and there has been, from time to time, a thought on the part of the board that we wished not to hear from the public on matters that were on the agenda for this evening. We made an exception at the last meeting and heard a matter that was on the agenda. How does the board feel about two speakers to address a matter on the agenda?
I think I would be fine with that, but I want to ask Mr. Massey, is there a particular reason why a lot of times we do not permit that?
Well, if it's you all have had the information you need to make decisions, generally, if it's on the agenda or you have it. If it's a quasi-judicial matter, there's no preparation, there's no opportunity for the parties involved to have heard it or may be able to make a response to it. So, I mean, you all certainly can do whatever you want to do about that, but last bit of information is not generally helpful. But any information is probably better than no information. So.
It seems to me that the board wishes to go ahead and hear Julia Kennedy, if you'd come to the podium, please.
Hi. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Julia Kennedy. I live downtown Pittsboro on East Salisbury Street. I'm also the unfortunate lady that had to live next to the rotting dumpster for several years in the parking lot next door to me from an absentee landlord. And it took quite a while to get that resolved, and I thank you for your efforts on my behalf in the past. So a few of the things I wanted to talk about a little bit tonight is that I think that having an Eagles directly around the corner from not only myself but a downtown residential area is a poor placement. I think there will be tremendous light, noise, traffic. DOT, I can't believe that they signed off on this. The amount of traffic that we get now is, I can't believe there's going to be so much of it. There's also a possibility of loss of value to the properties nearby, and also possibility of contamination to the ground and water supplies of the people living nearby coming through those gas tanks. One of the other things I would like to talk about is the places that make Pittsboro the special place that it is. I don't have very clear handwriting, so bear with me. Pittsboro has evolved over the years to be a destination town where people come to enjoy small town friendliness and a quirky, inviting liveliness, full of artists, musicians, and farmers. To maintain our small, lovely Pittsboro, Pittsboro delightful place in which it is, the future of our town is now in your hands. I beseech you to help us to continue to be an exciting, changing, but locally vital community. Sorry. In the face of incoming retail establishment plan for the outskirts and outside of town, we must look at any and all decisions made now to anticipate how they will change our town, good or bad, for decades to come. Do we want to live and work in a cookie-cutter chain downtown with businesses in weird and wrong places? Or would we like to have locally owned, vibrant economy fueled by the people that live and visit here because it is a delightful place to come and spend time and money? We have many festivals here. We have art festivals. We have music festivals. We have children's festivals. These are all things that bring people here because they enjoy the culture that we have. And I feel that by putting a cookie-cutter chain convenience gas store so close to the rest of our charming downtown, it will take away a lot of our joy and beauty and the culture that we are working so hard to keep and to embody and to further in the years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Judy Kennedy. The next person signed up is Carolyn Townsend. Carolyn.
All right. Thank you very much. I'm Carolyn Townsend. I live in Pittsboro, 36 Lockville, in the town of Pittsboro. I have traveled in and out of Pittsboro for many years, and I appreciate the opportunity and the vision that I see, actually the literal vision of the old courthouse. But I also pass two service stations coming in from the east. I pass two service stations coming in from the north. I pass, and I go to my house, I pass another service station going to my house. Now, how many service stations do we need in Pittsboro? There's not a matter of need for this additional gas station, or snack shop, or auto car wash. You know where we have our auto car washes? We have plenty. And to put a property such as Eagles proposes is just a desecration to me, to our community. I've admired Julia for her presentation. She did a really good job, because that is what our Pittsboro is about. And as I understand, there's a possibility of you all turning this down. And I would agree. I will put all my support behind whatever decision you all make, but I prefer, I really want to support keeping Eagles out of that property, unless you all can come up with another alternative. What other alternative can there be? I think Eagles is a fuel company. They want to establish a business here and get money from it. It just is unconscionable to me. But I understand there is no reason for you all to really object to it because of our zoning. That's a whole other story. And that will probably come up as a result of this proposal being presented to you all. And I thank you very much for the opportunity to present my concerns, and wish us well. Thank you.
Thank you, Carolyn Townsend. That is the end of citizens' matters. The next matter on the agenda is commissioner updates. This is the time when we get to talk about those things that we have been doing during the weeks since the last meeting, meetings that we've gone to, or advocacies that we have put forward onto the part of the town. On April 12th, I attended a TARPO meeting. It's an aspect of the DOT, Board of Transportation, advocating for a truck route around Pittsboro. On the 16th of April, I attended the Chatham County Conservation Partnership meeting. On the 18th, we had a special board meeting here, but we also cut the ribbon on the new Pickle Jar restaurant at Chatham Mill. On the 20th of April, I cut another ribbon. This one was at the Walmart at the county boundary. They have already gone through a very intense redesign of the store, and so this was an event to congratulate their employees and to celebrate the success that Walmart has brought to the area. And then on the 21st of April, I attended a Veterans of Foreign Wars Recognition of Vietnam-era Veterans, which was held here in Pittsboro, and was a very, very moving ceremony. There are many other things that we do. The Pittsboro Business Association, Main Street Climate Change. There are reports from many other commissioners on matters that they have attended to during the last 2 weeks.
I too attended the Chatham Conservation Partnership meeting here, and I attended the Human Relations Committee, which is a subcommittee of Chatham, together by Chatham County. And I'm on a subcommittee to explore creating a backbone organization that will address some of the issues brought on that the county deals with involving human relations. So we'll be studying collective impact as a way of organizing all the various organizations that are working towards human relations and bringing them together for a common good. So, yes.
Main Street Programs had a couple of meetings. One was attended by myself and Commissioner Farrell, along with Maria and John Boutique, to locate handrails that we've talked about, and I think we've identified 10 to 12 locations where they seem to be warranted given the steps in our downtown relative to the parking spaces. And the Main Street Design Committee has gone through downtown Hillsboro north of the courthouse to look for locations for a combination trash and recycling bin. Right now we've got trash bins but none for recycling, so wanted to introduce that option to the downtown, and I think we chose 6 locations, but I don't know that we'll be able to afford all 6 in one fiscal year, so we may have to split it up over 2 years.
Thank you.
Well, I attended the Pittsboro Affordable Housing Task Force meeting, and that was very good, and we are definitely, hopefully, going forward with great ideas and hopefully being able to implement those ideas eventually. But it is a public meeting, and all are welcome to attend.
So I missed the meeting of the Chatham County Climate Change Advisory Committee. However, I've been informed that this Thursday, a subcommittee is bringing in a speaker, an organizer from a group called the Institute for Agriculture and Trade Policy, which is an organization that I've grown to know and admire and respect from my work at RAFI, the Rural Advancement Foundation. Her name is Anna Clausen, and she's going to be presenting the idea and the opportunity to this subcommittee for something that's very intriguing, and I just wanted to mention it because I think it is something I'm going to be tracking. It's called a Rural Climate Dialogue. And rural climate dialogues are something they've done elsewhere. It uses an innovative and time-tested method for community problem solving and leadership development. The approach brings together a microcosm of the community to study an issue in depth and generate a shared community response. and it has consistently provided a productive, educational, and inclusive way to address complex or divisive challenges. And Chatham County's land use issues and the dual threat of, not the dual threat, the threat of climate change and the dual opportunity to increase our local energy self-reliance on the one hand, and also enhance our ability to sequester carbon here in the county is just too much of a good opportunity to pass up. And yet it must involve all of those of us who work on and live off the land. And so that is a complex and divisive challenge that I look forward to hearing more about this process. And so I'll report back to the committee to the board as I learned from that subcommittee and climate change advisory committee. Thanks for letting me share.
Very good. Thank you very much. Next on the agenda is old business, the first matter being the site plan review for Eagles. Victoria Bailiff will lead us in discussion.
We have site plan 2017-09. Eagles Management Corporation has submitted plans for review and recommendation. The site is located at 163 East Street and is Zone C2 Highway Commercial. The proposal is to use the 1.74 acre site as a restaurant, convenience store with gas pumps and a car wash. The main structure, totaling 4,769 square feet, will be able to accommodate the convenience store and restaurant. The pumps will be located behind the main structure, and the proposed car wash will be located along the eastern side of the property. Plans and the elevation. The planning board reviewed these plans at their March and April meetings, and in a vote of 5-0 recommended approval. The Board of Commissioners reviewed this project at the April 9th meeting and voted unanimously to table it. The plans for this site have been reviewed in accordance with the town's applicable development ordinances by the appropriate departments, and because of this, staff is recommending approval.
Thank you. Questions for Victoria? The applicant is here also, if there are questions for the applicant.
I'd like to say that a few thoughts on this project. Staff and the applicant have made excellent efforts to improve the project, and I would like to emphasize how excited I am that this company of people wish to invest in our town. It is a commendable project in some ways, and we fit perfectly on the outskirts of town. However, there's a deficiency in the application for the site plan approval. On the very first page of the drawings for this site plan, there's a discrepancy between parking requirements and parking provided. Under our ordinances, 30 regular spaces are required for a project like this, and 2 are required for vacuum spaces. But under parking provided on the first page, 4 spaces are indicated for vacuum spaces and drying stall, which takes 2 away from regular parking spaces. So because those 2 spaces were taken for the regular parking designation, it cannot be done. I move that we reject this application.
Motion by Chairman Bonnet.
Second.
Second by Beth Wilson Foley. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. The next matter is the Downtown Overlay District. Victoria Bailiff again.
I'll take that one on.
All right, thanks.
Yeah, all right. So this is a follow-up to our meeting that we had on Wednesday of last week to start the process of looking at our downtown. Part of that discussion was to look at doing an overlay district that would pretty much be a quarter-mile distance from the courthouse. And at the meeting on Wednesday, we showed that map The map on the screen and that was in your packet shows all the affected properties. There's around 260 affected properties. And at the Wednesday meeting last week, there was some direction to move forward with some public input. We're asking you all to set that for the next meeting for public input, and that we will then start the process of the legal moving of amendments through the process, with setting the public hearing at the May 14th meeting, holding that public hearing at the second meeting in May, and then having the plan board make a recommendation in June, and then potentially back to you all back on in June the 11th. The memo indicated how staff would go through the process of notification. We will be utilizing the mailed notice notification and putting signs throughout the affected area. That's cost effective for us. We ran the numbers on a half-page ad versus just mailed notices, and it's actually cheaper to mail and probably more effective. If those folks get a letter from the town, they may not read the newspaper. So we're going to have probably 8 to 10 signs throughout the downtown area indicating a public hearing is going to be coming up when we get to that point, and then we will be notifying folks of the public input meeting, and we'll be legally notifying folks again for the public hearing process. So there'll be 2 opportunities for the affected property owners, and then anyone in general who's just not an affected property owner to come and voice their opinions about how downtown zoning should work and how that helps shape the vision of the town. So if you all are good with that, that's how staff is going to proceed. Hopefully at the next meeting in your package, you'll start getting some language that staff is going to be working on that will start that overlay zoning text amendment. And we're going to hopefully move forward with this at a quick speed.
Excellent.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
May I ask a question?
Yes.
At our special meeting a week or so ago, we had we went through the table of uses.
Yeah.
Does that have to be set in concrete before we can have the public hearing, or is the public hearing more or less just a matter of notifying that a change will be made?
Right. I think there could be changes after the public hearing to the various uses that would either be removed or limited, or could add special uses or something.
So it would really behoove us to go ahead and look carefully at that chart.
And that's why I was including in your packet for you all to start that process, so that when we get to the public input session, we can kind of springboard off of what staff has sort of highlighted and identified as those. There may be others that either Main Street or other groups want to talk about, discuss. And then we can add things to the zoning text, such as apartments or residents above commercial sufficient now. And we can certainly take things away. But staff's goal is to have language for the public hearing in May.
I think one of the documents that I think maybe I followed up and set up was the Excel spreadsheet that included the list of uses both from our zoning ordinance and from our UDO. And so you can compare the two, you can look at the two. But I think if we're to have an overlay district established prior to UDO, we should be looking at the zoning ordinance uses.
Right. Yeah, and you're exactly correct. We have another work session on our UDO next week. But whatever we do with the downtown overlay district will inform the UDO, and we'll just fall right in line with that. And hopefully with the UDO expand anything that we want to expand from in our downtown zone.
And the Main Street program had kicked off this, an effort to create the overlay, and we did a lot of work coming up with what we thought was a really good purpose statement. So we established that the regulations that we would propose and the land uses that we would propose would have to meet the goals of that purpose statement in order for us to make recommendations to the board to adopt an ordinance. And so if you think that's a valid approach, then I think it's a good way to think about it, because I think the purpose statement really embodies a lot of what Pittsboro wants to be and thinks it is.
I think it'd be very helpful to give us a date on what you all have been working on.
Yes. Well, I think we went through the land uses, and I had shared that with us at the work session, and we developed the purpose statement, and just really got cracking into some of the regs. So really, that's the product we have to contribute to this time.
Yeah, I see Main Street folks helping us out when we start crafting more language for the
I do like that approach. I think it's very good to have a clear vision.
Right. It would make things easy to justify as to why you did something, because it met this criteria or it didn't meet this
We
criteria.
need to have something measurable.
Okay, so if I could just ask a further clarifying question, Jeff. I reflected back, actually Mayor reminded us that back in November 27th, we were thinking about this and thinking, we didn't use the phrase stopgap, but what can we do immediately to address inappropriate developments in downtown, not related to the issue we just addressed previously on the agenda. Okay. And at that time, we talked about a special use permit, and then again at our special call meeting last Wednesday, we talked about things in terms of short-term efforts to meet an immediate need. The moratorium word was even mentioned, and I think the majority of the board felt that wasn't appropriate, wasn't where we wanted to go. However, I'm kind of trying to think how to articulate coming attractions, because I'd like to work to entice the public to participate in this short-term effort with an eye towards the UDO. So if we could just hear a little bit more about, just a few sentences more about how this effort will differentiate from that effort from the UDO process. So,
well, we are doing this in lieu of having a UDO in place, and it is a measure to get that there's some corrections that need to be made. So we don't want to use stopgap measures or that terminology. We are doing some corrections to our zoning that's been historically out of line with the vision that was adopted from the town many years ago in our future land use plan. And if we're looking at uses, what can and can't be in downtown, that's primarily what this measure will be doing for the zoning. We'll then get into building form and parking and those types of issues.
Potential incentives.
Right. Those are all things that will spur off and continue on long-term.
Later discussions.
Yeah, later discussions, historic district preservation ordinances, things like that. Those can be explored either through the UDO process or another process.
So it's distinctly not a stopgap effort. This is a deliberate, careful policy effort, but it's accelerated because we know that the UDO is going to take a while.
Right, right. I mean, it can be accelerated as quickly as we have on the screen, but it's just as good as any other ordinance writing that we would take 6 months to do. We're going to put our efforts into making this what you all want, and that takes work from you all to tell us what uses you want to see, and from the public too. And we're going to try to encourage folks to come, and we can do Facebook and things like that.
Very good.
Get people here.
Thank you, Jim.
All right, thanks.
Go ahead. I'll make a motion to set the public meeting for May 14th.
Sorry. Motion by Michael Fiocco, seconded by Pamela Baldwin. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed. My question, which has no bearing on the motion, is that in November of last year, one of our constituents came forward and spoke at the podium about how it would be his suggestion to the town that all new uses become special uses, and that the old uses that were established businesses become grandfathered in, so to speak. Is there...
So you need way to look at it.
Well, and I thought so too. I mean, having served on the county planning board myself, I've never heard of such a division between new and old. And of course, what you'd be doing, I suppose, in essence, is making those old businesses non-conforming uses, or maybe not.
That's probably what the result of what we're going to be doing anyway.
Is it?
We're going
Okay.
to be looking at convenience stores, and we know we have at least 2, possibly 3 in our study area here. And if it's the will of the town to say, we don't want to see any more of these, we're going to probably make those non-conforming. And as such, there are provisions for them to continue on operating for as long as they're in business. Even if there's damage to the property, they can continue to come back. If there were complete destruction of the property, the current zoning ordinance does not allow for a rebuild of that use now that it's not conforming. But I would see that those businesses can continue as those and others that might become non-conforming in this process can continue as long as they're viable and want to continue. That would be important for us to remind folks through this process, is that we're not shutting folks down. We're not asking folks to stop what they're doing, because that'll be a perception that gets out there. Is the town doesn't want these, so they're going to try to zone us out. And it's the new ones that we might not want. The old ones can stay. They can be repaired, and they can continue to operate just as they are today.
Well, I think that was one of the feelings on the board's part about a moratorium, that we didn't want to send the message that current business owners were not welcome here. We want all of the current business owners in.
We're trying to develop in downtown as well as the town, so we wouldn't really want to have a moratorium on development when we're trying to build a town hall as well.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
The next item of our old business is Chatham Park's additional elements on public facilities.
Thank you, Mayor. Members of the board, at the last meeting on April 9th, we started our conversation on public facilities. We discussed some comments that we had received from fire and public and water, sewer, and Parks and Rec is here to have a discussion on some of their comments. Schools is a component of public facilities, and we know that Chatham Park and the Chatham County School System have been working over the last year or more to come up with language that is included in your draft element that we have in front of us. And I included the minutes from a particular Chatham County school board meeting that approved the language from Chatham Park that the county had agreed upon. County schools are represented here tonight, so if you have questions from them, you certainly ask those. Chatham Park is here as well. And as always, you can focus on schools while we have the school systems here. Do that, and if you have any comments or questions about any of the other aspects of public facilities, either staff or Chatham Park can try to fill those as well. Yeah.
Thank you. We welcome Dr. Jordan with us this evening, and we invite you to the podium if that's appropriate. It was at the school's request that we tabled this matter from the last meeting, Dr. Jordan, and in the anticipation that we'd be hearing from you tonight. When you and I spoke briefly before the meeting, it appears that you are not intending to make a presentation, a full presentation, but we'd love to just hear your thoughts on where we are.
Certainly. Madam Mayor, members of the board, good evening, and thank you very much for this opportunity. We also appreciate your graciousness in delaying this conversation until tonight. I am not prepared to give a full presentation, but wanted to be here to respond to any questions that there may be. I wanted to underscore what you've heard already, that the school district, under the direction of the Board of Education, and we have our chairman here with us, Chairman Gary Leonard, this evening, we have spent quite a bit of time working with the representatives from Chatham Park to delve deeply into some language, and over a couple of months, maybe 3, it's been more, we landed at a spot that both sides felt comfortable with. And we believe that the language before you tonight appropriately encompasses what we have identified as the fundamental needs moving forward. We recognize that this is a huge project, and certainly there will be the need to be flexible and make changes as necessary, and we stand ready to continue having open dialogue with the folks from Chatham Park such that we can meet the needs of the students that will be generated as a result of this project. And certainly happy to take any questions that may exist. Want to also note that our Chief Operations Officer, Mr. Chris Blyce, as well as our Director for Maintenance and Construction, Mr. Randy Drumheller, are also here, and the 3 of us are the primary school district folks who interact, them more than me in some regards, with Chatham Park. But we are certainly appreciative of the give-take. Hasn't been smooth sailing all the time, but what situation is, we have been fortunate, though, we believe, to have folks who have been committed to rolling up the sleeves, doing the work, allowing us to go back and forth, and being willing to hear rationale for the proposed language that we have identified. And ultimately, as noted in your packet, the Board of Education has endorsed the language that's before you tonight.
Dr. Jordan, I have a question.
Certainly. Yes, ma'am.
On one of our meetings, the county manager indicated there were some concerns with the school board. The school board had concerns, or someone within the school system had concerns, and she did not indicate what those concerns were. But is there any way, are you all knowledgeable about any type of concern that you have regarding this particular element?
So I would say that the concerns that would have been raised have been sufficiently addressed, as evidenced by the Board of Education's approval of the language that's before you. I will say that I recognize that a number of people, and we appreciate this, are obviously interested in this particular element, because we are so fortunate to have people who are committed to traditional public schools, and we appreciate that. But to your question, Commissioner Baldwin, I believe that concerns that may have existed are appropriately addressed in the language that's before you.
Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Other questions from the board?
Dr. Gordon.
Yes, sir.
I was just looking at the charts, and you and I had a conversation recently where we talked about the number of students per facility, and I recalled it was 1,200 for the high school, and I thought you said 850 for the middle and 650 for elementary.
Ideally, and so I'll let Mr. Weiss speak to the chart, because we know there's some adjustments to be made to the chart.
Yes, sir. The table that's listed. I had a conversation with Chuck before the meeting, Chuck Smith, and we know that some of these numbers need to be changed and adjusted, but we're collaborating on that. Now, we did settle on some of these capacities along the way, and sometimes things change, but we'll do that together.
A couple of things that came to mind and subsequently I think is addressed is, you know, that the donation or dedication of the property is really of great benefit to the school system.
Absolutely.
Agreed. But at the same time, it could be a real burden on the school system as well if the property were such that it was so expensive to develop, it really was a burden. And so my immediate thought was that we have to determine suitability of that land. And so I carried that, and looking through the pages, it does talk about suitability of topography and those kinds of things. And of course, the site won't be made an option until the infrastructure to the property is there, road, water, and sewer. So I think it is covered that you won't be getting property to the cliff. And so we'll have to look at that small area plan as well, and kind of make sure that that's being considered.
And Commissioner Fiocco, if I may, I think that that's an excellent point, and quite frankly, we'll be looking to the Pittsboro Town Board in a very real way to help ensure that the needs of the school district as they evolve are adequately addressed. We don't have any reason to believe that we couldn't arrive at some reasonable agreement with Chatham Park, but ultimately, as it stands today, if approved, we'd look to the Pittsboro Town Board to be the hearing panel, if you will, to ensure that those issues, for example, if later on that those items became an issue, that we would have the support of this board to ensure that we had adequate property to meet the needs of the school district.
I think, and so I went through the list of the defined terms as to how property is dedicated. And, we've got a term called infrastructure availability. We've got a notice date. We've got a confirmation date. We have a commitment period. We have a construction commencement date. All those things taking us down a path of how the property becomes a school. And there is a statement in the document that I think gives me big concern, and I will express that. And it says that any time prior to the earlier conveyance of a reserved school site or having made a commitment to a reserved school site, Chatham Park may move the site. And so I tried to figure out how far down the process one would be when that could occur. And the commitment date is quite a ways down the road, because you've got 6 months after the notice date to say, yes, we want that. Then you've got 4.5 years, which is the commitment period. And the trigger for expressing the commitment of the school board to Chatham Park is a development plan. So in those 4.5 years, you may be thinking, we're going there, we're going there, we're going there. And you're spending a lot of money on design for architects and engineers. And within that 4.5-year period, this document says the site can be moved. That your investment in those very specific designs could be lost. And so I think that should be remedied, that it should be not a unilateral movement, but an agreed upon movement. Because I think there's real risk there.
And we appreciate that. As most, if not all of you know, the building of schools is a very complex proposition, and in as much as some who are not intimately involved in the process would think that, hey, you can identify the fact that students are coming and get going and build a school pretty quickly. That just is not the reality. And so what you just articulated is an actual possibility in terms of the process elongating, and certainly we would not want to lose any time invested, any money invested, be it design or what have you. We'd like to have as much maximum flexibility as possible in that regard. And certainly appreciate you noting that and highlighting that. We spent quite a bit of time talking about what the timeline looks like, and I think we arrived at a place that both sides could, for the sake of finalizing this document, could live with initially, with the understanding that there absolutely could be an opportunity for us to have to back up, punt, and make some adjustments. So I like the idea of making adjustments up front as opposed to waiting and kicking the can down the road. But I also, having been a party to the efforts to create this draft, realized that it was work over several months, and so it was language that we agreed to, and did not feel at that time that the language was a deal breaker, but do understand and have noted the point that you made that there will have to be some conversation around the what ifs.
Well, I found in general, I added up all the time frames from the months. There'll be a significant amount of time, I think, between when a school site is shown on a small area plan and when you have this threshold of infrastructure availability. There will be time. The whole time you'll be thinking, this is good for us, this is good for us, do we need this site? And so I can't put a time frame on that, how many years that could be.
Sure.
But once the process starts, you don't have to start construction for 10 years.
Right.
So in that regard, I think it's probably a pretty good agreement, but I think there's a big flaw in here where a lot of time, a lot of energy, and potentially a lot of money has been put into something that can unilaterally just disappear. And I think that's a big problem.
And I can speak for the school district, and I look over at Ms. Jenkins, and I think that our hearing the feedback and knowing the relationship that we've had heretofore, I don't think that it would be a hard sell to have additional conversation around the feedback that's been provided.
Any other questions for Dr. Jordan or his staff? Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Greatly appreciate you being with us, and you may be assured that we will be pleased to be a partner with you, although this board very infrequently deals with school issues. We look forward to a partnership that can be mutually beneficial.
And we appreciate that, and we certainly have felt the support for the school district and your desire to ensure that our students and our community are well taken care of, so we appreciate that.
I'll take the opportunity to express additional appreciation that so much hard work went in from both Chatham Park's side and from the school district side, school administration, to language that is workable. And I'm hopeful that town will be able to learn and draw some very valuable lessons for language that we might use for other purposes.
Does the board want to continue discussion of other aspects of this additional element for public facilities? I noticed that it's on the agenda for May the 14th, but was it the board's intention to speak to the developer about any other issues besides the school issue?
Yes, we would like to discuss the fire station, if possible.
I can't hear everything. Making sure you don't need us, and really if there are any other questions that you need to be or comments you have.
I think the fire station are some concern.
What's the concern?
Well,
So it seems that now would be a good time to not just understand how town might go about planning for fire stations, but that we might utilize the language crafted between y'all and the school district to consider fire station locations, perhaps a police outpost, other public service type facilities that might be needed.
Well, the language that we've got with the school is giving those sites. We haven't proposed to give sites for fire stations or police substations.
I think it would be appropriate for us to talk about that.
If you'd like for us to talk about it, but we're not planning on giving those. We're giving plenty. We're already giving more than, giving school sites are not required.
Are there any questions that the board wishes to address with Chuck Smith at this point, or shall we wait for the meeting in May to make a final decision about this particular additional element?
Well, I think I had expressed some ideas as well on these other facilities at our last meeting, so I can repeat those.
Well, what I've got you to do is reserving the sewer allocation for public facilities. That's the comment I've got from you, at least from the last meeting that I remember.
It was, yeah, but in addition to that, it was impervious surface.
That's right.
And then the stormwater scoring, so that guarded or protected against having a piece of land identified, let's say, for a school, but having no impervious surface allocated to that school, so that basically it could not be developed. And that with what I'm assuming will be the stormwater regulations with the scoring system, the scoring system will allow for that development as well. So I think those kind of, I think the impervious is easy to do, but the scoring is probably quite challenging.
Have we gotten comments back yet from hydrostructures?
No.
Yeah.
So I don't know what to say about.
Right, we need to make that happen.
Okay.
Is there any sort of deadline on getting comments, or are they just going to kind of hold them forever?
Do we have a schedule? Do we?
We had them, I would say, the week before last, and I anticipated it coming last week. Even had several conversations with hydrostructures on making sure that they include certain things that I'm looking for. In their comments, they said, okay, and so I really do expect that any day now that we'll have those.
I think the other thing that I think would be normal, we probably anticipate doing this, but I think it's worth mentioning that you'll also be constructing improvements to the land for these facilities. One, the infrastructure availability component of the schools discusses that specifically, but I would say that that would be appropriate for all of the public facilities, that wherever they're located, that the water, sewer, and storm and roadway infrastructure is suitable for that facility.
So that we'll make sure I understand this. In the school agreement, we talked about it. We would, and it gets into the points you made a second ago or a few minutes ago about the notice date and some other things. But before that notice date, we have to have built the adjacent roadway and provided water and sewer to the site prior to that point in time.
And I think that would be an appropriate milestone for all the public facilities, such as the parks, police, and fire as well.
that public infrastructure extend to those sites.
Yeah. And of course, we would get into the discussion of the timing of that, which we did do some, or we discussed a little bit when it was talking about schools last time. And that the need for the school may generate the need for the public infrastructure, whereas I think it's envisioned that the public infrastructure will create the need for the school. I think we need to be considerate of the inverse of that the need for the school may be the trigger for constructing the infrastructure.
You probably need to help me more with what you mean by that.
That you've
I'm not disagreeing. I want to understand.
The school site would only be available once the infrastructure is there, but the school board may say, we've got to have that in the next 3 years, and we've all agreed on this site, so we need the infrastructure to that site in the next 3 years.
Well, one of Dr. Jordan and Mr. Blyce didn't get into, and they can correct me if I'm wrong here, but we meet, and particularly Vanessa, we meet very regularly with them. And one of the things we recently did was give them, we've developed a more detailed outline of our next 6 years schedule, and been phase by phase, section by section, and looking at when streets would be built. And specifically, one of the milestones that we were using for the development of the streets and getting infrastructure in for the school site that we have shown them and provided in a small area plan. Provided a small area plan that hasn't been considered yet, but anyway, we've identified a site next to our village center. And given a timeline on that, and we're working with them, and if something happened, and I think even during those conversations, you correct me, there's even been an acceleration on their part of saying, if we think we may need that site a year or so ahead of when we were telling you before. We're working together very closely to make sure that those things are happening, and that we're in clear communication with each other, and they've been great. I don't know that we've said it, they have been great to work with. They do a great job, and I know they get a lot of criticism from a lot of different good groups. We're parents, we're most passionate about our children, so I'm sure they get a lot of criticism just because people are passionate about their kids. But from our experience of dealing with school systems in different counties, they do a great job. And so, and I hope they would say the same thing about us, but we are working very closely together just to try to make sure we're on top of those kind of concerns that you're talking about.
And I think, regular meetings would do that. I think this document talks about semi-annual, and we had talked about doing it quarterly. So
yeah, we've been meeting at least that regularly. But I don't want to say that the agreement doesn't matter on guaranteeing we're going to meet at a certain time, because we meet when we need to meet, and we meet when we have new information to provide them, and they've been very open with us about asking to meet when they have new information to provide us. So we're from our standpoint, they are very important to our success. So this isn't something that we see as we're going to go kicking and screaming into providing the things we said we were going to provide. We need them.
Yeah, I understand, and I appreciate it. And I want to ensure that we continue that very good working relationship, and that the information exchange occurs and the needs are acknowledged. So and it's a way of me trying to say, let's consider the needs of the school, which it sounds like is happening, the school system, in such a way that their schedule is considered in the development of the infrastructure.
Very good. So it looks like we're waiting for two things. We're waiting for hydrostructures, and we're waiting for perhaps some answers to some of the sequencing questions that we've brought up tonight and facilities questions when it comes to police, fire, and emergency.
And I'd say, mostly the hydro structures question is more related to the stormwater element, but there are some, as the issues you brought up, I mean, they certainly, how they respond to what they're looking at affects what we're talking about here, even though it's probably on the other element that would be addressing that.
Yeah, I think, the storm drainage concept is really sophisticated, and I find it pretty interesting. I also find it pretty difficult to be able to say something
Mr.
simple
Donis's
about it.
words, very daunting. I started using that word since he's taught it to me.
Excellent. All right, we'll look forward to hearing more about that on
I just have one more thing. In fact, I want to, again, review the fire element, because I am very concerned about the fire stations and not necessarily being able to locate the fire stations, but a lot of times you can locate a fire station, you don't have funds to build a fire station, that could jeopardize a lot of different things. So I'm going to send you some questions.
Let me at least say this much. It's similar to what the meetings we've had with the school system. We haven't been meeting as much, but we have been meeting with fire personnel. And I readily admit, I mean, we defined a response time within the element that they may not agree to. And really, and it's really your decision. I mean, what you decide that you want your response time to be to respond to a fire or an emergency situation, that's what defines your plan. And so if you decide that the timeline we put in there is different from what you think it ought to be, that affects some of those answers. At the same time, we took those are national standards, and we taught the other municipalities around here to understand their response time goals. And so that's what that does. Now, it's not trying, and I think Mr. Farrell, took it that we were trying to tell the fire station or the fire department what we are not trying to do that at all. You guys really can say this is what we think the response time should be. If it's something different from that, and this is your town. So we're just trying to help in an area where you were needing help at the time that the element decided we need to be talking about these sorts of things. But we were not trying to dictate to you that certain things need to happen. And so with that in mind, when we have met with fire personnel and we've shown them locations or a location, and at one time, okay, this makes sense, and then a few months later, not so sure about that. And so there's changing dynamics from their standpoint. Many of those, I think, possibly outside of Chatham Park, that causes them to change their opinion on where a station should be located. But we've been meeting with them to try to make sure that we've defined where that location is. And what we've said is we would reserve that location, not give it, but we would set it aside so that it's there for the fire station.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I look forward to this being back on the agenda then May 14th, assuming that hydro structure says respond. Thank you, Jeff. The next item of old business is Chatham Park's Art in the Traffic Circle. Jeff Jones.
Thank you, Mayor. Tonight we're going to talk a little bit about the traffic circle art, the art piece that Chatham Park is wishing to place within the traffic circle at Russet Run and Freedom Parkway. On the screen is an illustration of what the artist has come up with and what Chatham Park is proposing to place within the roundabout there, the traffic circle. This, as I kind of stated in my memo, this is in front of the town having a public art committee that is kind of spelled out in the public art element, and staff would have you all consider and make a final decision on whether this art piece is appropriate in this location in lieu of having this public art committee that the town probably should appoint at some point in the near future, because we're going to have other public art pieces that either Chatham Park or others are going to want to do, and it could be a good way to get the artist community on board with other town members. So you all can ask Chatham Park some questions. This is an art piece by a local artist, Evan White, and let's see, I've got one other slide here. This is sort of dimensions of, it's going to be 18 feet tall, 12 feet from the ground to the widest point of the sculpture, and it would be located since we've taken over Russet Run as a result of your resolution at the last meeting, and then we're moving forward with having this encroachment under our jurisdiction.
And both this and the plant trenches will be done through a keep agreement with Chatham Park.
That's my understanding. The stormwater devices and the roundabout and the sculpture itself would be maintained by Chatham Park.
Did that also include the median/boulevard? Got it. Okay. And we were making that conditioned on having the running resolved, right?
Yes.
Okay. Good.
Excellent. I just have one comment about, in the paragraph it said at least one of these talks about committee, Chatham Park, and at least one. I believe that number should be two.
They're going to give you a list of at least two, maybe more, and you have to choose at least one from that list.
Oh, I see. Okay, I understand. There should be two people on the child list.
They're going to give you a list of at least two, maybe more. And this is the way I understand it, and you're inclined to appoint one of those persons.
We might need to revisit that language.
And the additional element,
Or
I thought we
interpretation
decided
of that
that there was going to be
language.
two
That
parties.
wasn't my understanding.
No, this is the Public Art Committee, not
Okay.
Chatham Park.
Okay.
That's two
I
different
wanted to clarify.
committees.
It wasn't clear.
Yeah, this is all public art realm discussion. This is not the private art.
Okay.
Yeah, the private art, they're probably, the language does say the two local artists
Okay.
or two artists from the community will be a part of their committee.
Yeah. Just want to make sure.
Thank you.
So what we need to do tonight is to approve the subdivision.
There's not a subdivision. I'm not sure where that came from. It's just the art piece. Yeah.
Came from the Middle South.
Yeah, it's not an art piece. I mean, not a subdivision.
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we approve the art installation in the Russet Run traffic circle.
Second. Moved by Bette Wilson Foley, seconded by Pamela Baldwin. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. I was tempted to crack a joke about paint colors. You just jumped right in there, Bet.
All right. Our last item under old business is a discussion of the review instruments that we looked at last meeting with respect to both town manager and town board review. And I don't know if people brought with them the, I have a couple of extra copies. And so one of them is the one-page version of the board review. The other one was the sampling of 4 different review factors that were given in the workbook, which I received when I went to a performance review seminar offered by the School of Government. If people have had a chance to look at the previously distributed reviews, I would simply say a couple of little things. One of them being that I do feel that we need something in writing. There has been some discussion about having an open conversation, but I do believe that having something in writing could be very beneficial for a variety of reasons. Words can sometimes be misunderstood or interpreted one way or the other. But I think if it's written it's written has a tendency to be less open to interpretation. But I'd be interested in hearing what the board thinks. One of the things that we need to make a decision about is the complexity or lack thereof of the rating system, the evaluation system, whether you want it simply 1, 2, 3, exceeds, meets, or does not meet requirements, or whether you want to be a more complex 1 to 5, and the offerings for comments and things like that. So have folks looked at this enough to determine which one of these tools might be something acceptable for our future evaluation?
I personally think, like the ones that involve language, where you can elaborate a little bit more than just quantifying with a number. Unless you do have space for comments. And I also thought that one thing that City of Durham does was interesting, because that's got a lot of words called on the language. I also wondered if we needed to include some way of prioritizing. Do we want to say, when we're doing this evaluation, which areas are most important to what the town's needs are at the moment? I might be interested to quantify that to give some sort of forward to certain priorities.
Okay. So that way, all questions would be equally weighted then.
Yeah.
Okay.
Some of which things are most important.
Okay.
I do not like this idea of circle the rating. I do not like that at all. I do like the Durham County manager. That is very good. They have questions and basically discussion type situations. I think that's very good, and I like the idea you were saying, what's the top priority now as opposed to what the top priority might have been years ago, which changes over time. So I do like that type of evaluation. No, when you say meets, fully meets, exceeds as compared to what? Fully meets as compared to what? That can be very, very subjective.
Yeah, and as far as what would be most helpful to this respect, I would think.
Exactly.
More specific.
And then he's given us feedback as well.
I think it's relative to your expectations. Whether someone meets or exceeds your expectations.
Yeah, but that can vary so much. It can be very.
And I think it is subjective. Honestly,
It's subjective, but it should also be objective as well. Because a lot of times someone may say, okay, I expect you to walk on top of the building and not fall. But no, I don't expect you to do that. I just expect you to maybe just stand there. So it can be objective, subjective to what a person thinks.
Noting that the Durham County performance review has both questions and a summary rating at the bottom.
Yeah, I like that part.
Does that help? What's working well, what needs improvement, and then there's the summary rating 1, 2, 3. I would suggest that perhaps we add one that says not able to be judged or not no experience in that particular area, so that if for example there was a question about employee relations, it would our board does not usually have any insight into employee relations. Those kinds of questions would be answerable by, we simply don't have that information.
I think the list of county guys do because it lists things are expected, but then also allows for comments.
And then as well, one that is for the city of Burleson, Texas, that one patterned directly after the ICMA 8 requirements for an effective local government management team. And I sort of like those because they were sort of nationwide in your particular professional area, Brian Grisbeck. Is that what did you think of that one?
I apologize, I don't recall that one offhand.
Okay.
Well, it's in the finest print of the package. Second from the back. I like the. I previously read the ICMA 8 practices and really liked that language a lot. And it was very, in a couple of ways, it was reminiscent of the 8 principles of, I think it's described as 8 principles of board executive relations or something like that UNC School of Government put out. And they've since published that under a different name, like 8 practices.
Well, let's see. Then my sense is, listening to what comments you've made, is that the City of Clinton evaluation that has the circle of rating, weak points, strong points, etc. Can we say that we're eliminating that one because it seems to request so much that it's subjective? Pamela, you didn't like that one. No.
I think I like, well, of what we have in our offering, it's Elizabeth County, Durham, suited me.
Okay. All right. Well, I mean, I can give you more. There's the entire 3-ring binder. But I think this is a mess.
So based on you attended the workshop, what did you feel were the strongest methods from what you have a lot more background information on this topic?
Well, I just like the ones that had a closer rating system. I think you have a tendency when you have 1 through 5 to pick 3, and then 4 and 2 seem to be easier. So I like the three-part system, and both of those seem to be carried out in both the Durham and the Elizabethtown evaluation. Well, I think I think I like the suggestion about the priorities as we pursue our needs. So why don't we try to put together some priorities and some questions that meet those particular priorities, and then come back to this next meeting. One of the things that has been suggested, and we certainly know this, I certainly know this after listening to November meetings, which went almost until midnight, that we need to do this at a part of the meeting where we're all fresh. And the actual evaluation aspect, of course, will be done in closed session, but the evaluation tools can be done in open session. Okay. Does that sound like a good plan? Okay, well, we'll continue to work on that, and perhaps a little more in-depth on the governing board. It would be
Our self-evaluation?
Well, that's one. The self-evaluation is just a very nice one-page thing. There is a much longer one, which has ethical and legal responsibilities and working with others, board policies and procedures, making decisions, setting direction, providing resources, and accountability. I think accountability and responsibility are two things that are obviously quite important to a public board such as ours. So maybe we can go in greater depth on our evaluation as well at the next meeting. Does that sound good?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes.
Good. I'm sorry, I had to move Jay Farrell's flower.
Yes. My nose is starting to itch too.
Wow. I had no idea. So our next item on the agenda is Brian Grusbeck's update.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Go quickly. Upcoming meetings, of course, we have the affordable housing meeting, the subcommittee on the 26th. And then on May 3rd is the county affordable housing committee meeting over at the Ag Center. The engineer hiring process, we reviewed and interviewed 4 candidates over the course this past week. I think out of the 4, we found probably 3 that would work really well. Here I indicate that we would select 1 or 2 finalists this week to interview. We may have another round of interviews, actually with all 3 with other department heads. So we've got to sort that out a little bit. New town hall building program meetings continue. We had the one, of course, with the administration and finance departments. Town hall, we've got Chatham County Department scheduled for this Thursday. Those, of course, are going to help us guide how much space that each department needs and will aid in the final design of the town hall footprint. So we hope to get some feedback to you on that shortly. 15501 widening, I put that in there just as the reference for what we had used to update the board previously, and I think you guys are aware, based on previous updates and travels and new developments with this, that NCDOT is considering a redesign of what we, again, we're calling 15501 widening between Lonis and Powell Place. The design reportedly would consider an incorporated separate bike path. They have not yet, to my knowledge, scheduled any public meetings on this. It's going to probably push, as I believe Planner Jones indicated, that the design on that is going to be pushed back a little bit. So we haven't, to my knowledge, scheduled any public meetings on that. It appears as if they were out this past week surveying the entire length. So that's good. We'll definitely keep you posted. I'm sure in your committees you'll have some updates on that as well. With regards to other news on 15501, I found out yesterday that DOT is doing some resurfacing from basically Lowe's Drive north to Orange County, I'm told, is the only, I guess, feedback that I've received on that. It appears as if they're doing most of the work tonight. They have some, so it's not my understanding that it's anything more at this point, but if it is, we'll pass that on.
Do you know when that's going to start? Because they've already started moving.
They already started Sunday night, early morning.
It looks like spot patching, basically, or?
Yeah, they've
grinding and.
Yeah, some grinding in areas. I don't know that they're just going to take everything and make everything black from here to the county line, but the areas that they were going to be working, we were told, was basically from Lowe's north, so in town. So like I said, if we have any more information, we'll let you know. It just kind of caught my attention when I saw the barrels going up on Sunday. So.
They didn't. Of course, they didn't. They didn't survive it thoroughly.
John, it was news that Mr. Poteet as well.
Traffic was horrible yesterday. Last night. It was So I would hope maybe we could ask DOT to advise us a little earlier so we can let people know, because it was just
completely agree.
Yeah, it was terrible. I would appreciate it. Thank you.
It was admirable that they scheduled it and set everything up to do it at night on a Sunday evening.
It was, but traffic was terrible.
But just a little bit of communication.
Yeah, just a little communication would have made a lot of difference. Traffic was so backed up. beyond Northwood. It was, and thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, we'll pass anything along, that we receive. Just a couple of notes about plans. Mr. Jones had indicated that there was a UDO session coming up next week. The other plans, not much of an update on those as of yet. We received for the sewer asset management plan. We had another meeting with regard to that. We are going to be receiving some cost analysis probably by the end of May. The other plans and studies are currently in process. So a lot of work, a lot of forward-leaning work, I think, that we have here. And as we interview our engineers, this has kind of been a part of the interview where hopefully we're not scaring anybody away with some of the work that we've got coming up on it. But a lot going on, obviously. And of course, upcoming meetings, just the other note on that would be is that we've got some budget coming up. We're looking at the latest having the budget submitted by the final week in May. So it may be before that. So Heather and I continue to work through. We've got all the departmental requests in. We've had most of the meetings with the departments at this point in time. Now the job is to try to come up with a budget that of course balances, fits in a lot of the priorities that you guys have talked about in the past, and of course fits in some of the new salaries that we'd be having and the plans that we'd be having. So our work continues on that, and look forward to presenting that information to you here in the future. With that, I'll tap out and open up for any questions, comments, concerns that we have. Thank you.
Back to the slide with the photo of the root damage.
That looked like a standard pool.
Yeah.
And out of the ocean.
And this is in the sewer pipes?
Yeah, this came out of some maintenance on Camp Drive. So there's some root damage on Camp Drive. So
it's growing into the pipe.
Yep.
What kind of plant was that?
It's I believe tree root. I don't recall what tree. I'm not trying to be smart when I say that. But, yeah, that's the biggest creature I've seen. That's right. And I guess I would add one other thing that wasn't in the report. A few meetings ago, Commissioner Fiocco mentioned streetlights on Belmont, or the lack of streetlights on Belmont. We've had a meeting with Duke Energy. Duke Energy is providing us with some cost estimates. I believe we have those, actually. So probably by the next meeting, if there needs to be some adjustment, we can come back to it with you on that. We may be able to, nonetheless, we may be able to fit those within our existing line item. Either way, I'll let you know what exactly the timeline is. So we should be able to get that lighting installed sometime early this summer.
Are we phasing in the new lighting systems for those that need to be replaced? I was traveling somewhere in town and noticed that I thought that the wonderful old soft amber ones had been replaced by the...
There were some that were replaced here and there. I haven't given the go-ahead on any sort of aggressive replacement of the old lights. Now, keep in mind, those are the older. What's the sodium? Yeah.
Mercury vapor. The mercury vapor is the bright blue, and the sodium halide is the orangish.
A little more energy intensive. So we had some. Just going back, I think it was even before your time, we had a complaint from a resident. So I kind of.
No, I was here then.
Oh, were you?
Yeah.
I kind of let that go into hiatus for a little while, but it's not. I mean, if there have been new ones put up, they may be doing the new ones, but it's not my understanding that we've given any sort of go-ahead to just carte blanche replace them.
So we don't have a plan to go ahead and replace them, but by the same token, we know that the new ones use...
We're going to have to replace, they're going to have to be replaced at some point.
Yeah.
I think we wanted to be sure that we were clear of some of the public's concerns that we had, if we were going to kind of gather any other feedback that we received on it. I mean, obviously, to the naked eye, they appear brighter than what was there before. It's hard for me personally to dispute that. Others may have a different opinion on it. However, we're going to run into an issue with obsolescence, and there's energy efficiency and some things of that nature.
Yeah.
I think we're going to have to go ahead and have those replaced at some point in time. We just weren't really sure what the time was, given some of the concerns that were expressed previously.
Well, I think that concern has diminished now, but early on in my first term, I met with Chet Mann, the mayor of Sanford, who said that they had switched over completely and that they expected to regain the cost in savings in their utility bill in just a few years. And noting that that's a real, I sign a $16,000 check every month for our utility service here, and that it would be lovely if we could diminish that. So maybe we could at least begin to put some kind of line item in. Is there a sustainable line item that we could put it into that might just take a stab at beginning some of those things that are going to be longer term? But, okay. At Wilson Public, do you have a commissioner concern tonight?
I don't have a concern, but I did have some high praise for Officer Swain and Officer Thomas. My family had the experience of meeting the Pittsburgh Police Department firsthand. My son's car was sitting in front of our house, and someone came and smashed into it and then took off. And we called the Pittsburgh Police Department. They were there in about 5 minutes, and I learned that Officer Swain is nationally certified in crash reconstruction. And he did an outstanding job in a short amount of time. While he was investigating our crash, 2 other people called in and said that they had experienced someone hitting. He was able to figure out that the person who was making that call was the person that ran into the car. And he was able to track them down, and he and Officer Thomas were able to get a confession from this person, and they were charged. And it was very exciting to witness the whole thing. So they did an excellent job. Officer Swain was very calm and collected, and I was very impressed. And that's all I have.
Good. Michael?
Just have 2 items. I'm just curious if we have received, and maybe I'm misremembering, Brian, but did we have the report from facilitator on the tree? Okay. Can we get a copy of that? And more on lighting. I'm noticing that the light adjacent to the wall, immediately adjacent to the wall in the pocket park, is not illuminated. That's all I got.
Anyone?
No.
John?
So I received from a constituent a question about some dead links on our website, and they're pretty important, but they are documents having to do with environmental impact statement. So, Ms. Grusback, I'll follow up with you by email, and if you could, I'd appreciate your attention to getting those fixed. Those documents publicly available. Thank you.
I can't remember the last time. It was 20 minutes to 9. And we were finished with our agenda.
Don't acknowledge
I'm not sure I see the comment.
2-minute recess or closed session, one or the other. Please.
Leg stretcher
A leg stretcher?
before a closed session?
Is that what you mean?
No, I mean one or the other.
I would recommend
I think we should do a closed session.
Okay. Closed session?
Sure.
Okay, for a closed session.
Okay. And that's for consultation with our attorney. Those in favor? I'm sorry. Yes. Those in favor, please indicate by saying
How's it going? I got the back of this. I don't know where.
We're back in open session. At this point, the appropriate motions have been made to come back out.
Yes.
Yeah. So, is there any business to be transacted before we adjourn for the evening?
Is there a motion to reconsider? I move that we reconsider the motion regarding the site plan review 2009 Eagles. Can I hear a second?
Motion by John Bonnet, seconded by Bette Wilson Foley, as a motion to reconsider old business item number 1, site plan SP 217, 2017-09.
Mr. Messing, do we need to undo the prior motion?
I think you
Or
need to
simply
vote.
repeat?
I think you need to vote on the motion to reconsider and then make a new motion.
Thank you.
Those in favor of the motion to reconsider, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries unanimously.
So, we'll pose a new motion because I realized that I inaccurately expressed the reason for rejecting this application for site plan approval. Under our ordinances, 32 regular spaces are required for a project like this, and 2 spaces are required for vacuum spaces. But under parking provided on the front page of the site plan, 4 spaces are indicated for vacuum spaces and drying stalls, plus 30 regular spaces. 2 spaces were taken from the regular parking designation. It's a matter of labeling, and that cannot be done. I move that we reject this application.
You've heard the motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved by John Bonnet, seconded by Bette Wilson Foley. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Is there a motion to adjourn? So moved. Moved by Pamela Baldwin, seconded by Michael Fiocco. Those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Good evening. Rachel Maddow is...
Wow, back in
Yeah.